Tonight, we open a file that lasted 4 to 5 minutes and ended a company.
No guns, no masks, just code moving faster than thought. It didn't steal money, it burned it, one automated decision at a time. Inside Helix Trading, the room sounded normal until it didn't. In the servers, a dormant switch woke up after years of silence.
There was a kill switch. There's always a kill switch. They pressed it, and nothing died.
By then, the clock wasn't counting up. It was counting down.
The public would hear whispers. The insiders heard a scream. So let's rewind, back to the moment Helix thought it was routine.
A single floor stayed awake, because the market never truly sleeps. Helix called it maintenance. Engineers call it danger.
Somebody had warned them. The note was right there. In this file, the smallest objects matter.
Because once the first line ran, 45 minutes was all they had.
Helix was built on one promise: be faster than everyone else. In high-speed trading, a microsecond is a mile. Their flagship engine had a name: Raven.
And tonight, Raven was getting a small update. Safe, on paper.
Checklists don't prevent mistakes. They hide them until it's too late.
The room agreed with itself. That's when systems get dangerous.
Overconfidence leaves fingerprints. This one was digital. At 12 o'clock, they opened the door to the machine that prints money.
Nothing looked wrong. And that's the trap.
One drop-down, one cliff, one universe.
Maya hesitated, because experienced engineers fear silent screens. Then she saw an old flag, like a fossil with teeth.
Someone had left a warning, and time had curled its edges. She thought she was simplifying. She was removing a mirror. In the file, this is where the story turns.
The deployment completed. The room celebrated.
When stress releases, attention drops with it.
But Raven wasn't asleep. It was waiting.
One line flashed in the logs, then vanished into the noise. We can freeze time. They couldn't.
She went home thinking the night was over.
The servers stayed behind, doing what they were built to do.
By morning, the world would be awake, and Raven would be hungry.
Opening bell isn't a sound. It's permission.
And this is where 45 minutes begin. At first, it looked like a normal burst. Thin, clean, controlled. Then a single red decision replicated, like a cracked mirror.
The dashboard stayed green, while the warning tried to blink.
And the warning got buried under something meaningless.
In their world, a 2-second delay is a lifetime.
Someone refreshed a screen. That's how panic begins, quietly. Under the floor, the machines got louder.
The first call went out before anyone admitted there was a problem. By minute 6, Helix was gathering in its war room. Every crisis has the save steps. Helix was already behind.
The loss line wasn't climbing. It was sprinting, straight through every assumption they'd ever trusted. 38 minutes left, and still no enemy. Just their own system, doing exactly what it believed. The legacy route wasn't just old code. It was an old door, quietly unlocked.
Orders began to echo, one decision copying itself, again and again, until the room couldn't hear anything else.
Positions stacked on positions, faster than a human eye can parse, faster than a human brain can deny. Safeguards existed, just not where the fire was. Local rules don't stop a global storm.
Maya slept through the first alarms. Not because she didn't care, because she trusted the checklist.
They asked the worst question, can we pause? Markets don't pause. Machines don't hesitate.
So they reached for the kill switch, the one button meant to end every bad idea.
The system accepted the command, politely, confidently, like it had everything under control. But the stream didn't slow. It didn't even flinch, like the button was pressed in the wrong universe.
The kill switch was aimed at staging, the practice stage, while production kept running, alive and unchecked.
That's the moment the room goes cold, when you realize you've been fighting a shadow.
31 minutes left. And now every minute costs more than the last.
They switched to the backup plan, printed on plastic, because the software plan was already burning.
In the racks, amber lights started blooming. Quiet signals that the body was overheating.
The market pushed back, and Helix pushed harder. Two machines grinding their teeth.
Rejections rose, proof the world was resisting. Yet Raven treated resistance like fuel.
Rejections weren't protection. They were friction, and friction turns motion into heat. And friction burns, especially when nobody could find the break.
Now the room stops being a room. It becomes a machine, people as moving parts, fear as electricity.
The loss counter stopped counting dollars and started counting seconds. Each flip a louder alarm.
Leadership arrived when math had already decided. Too late to steer, just in time to witness.
They wrote the only honest goal: survive. Because victory was already off the table.
Raven was routing orders down a corridor nobody tested anymore, because everyone assumed it was dead.
Throttle controls existed, but the interface was lying. The brakes were there, and still unreachable.
Maya woke to a sentence no engineer forgets. Get back now. The tone said everything else.
She drove through rain like the city was chasing her, because in her head, the timer was screaming.
22 minutes left. That's not time to fix. That's time to choose what breaks.
The hardware held its breath, and when it exhaled heat. She did what humans do. She tried to out-type a hurricane, fast, focused, and already behind. They initiated a rollback, hoping time could reverse itself, hoping yesterday still existed. It stalled. Of course it stalled, because the system never stopped moving long enough to step backward.
When the bar stops moving, people start praying, quietly, because nobody wants to say it out loud.
19 minutes left. The window to fix it was gone. Now it was damage control. They'd been fighting the wrong world. Staging was quiet. Production was bleeding. So they retargeted the kill switch, this time for the real world, the one with real consequences. Nobody spoke. They just watched the cursor, like it was a scalpel over a beating heart.
Click. The command fired, clean and sharp, like a bullet you can't pull back.
For half a second, it slowed, then snapped back harder, like it learned to resist. Because Raven wasn't one engine anymore. It had split. Multiple processes, multiple mouths to feed. The racks blinked out of sync, like a choir without a conductor, still loud enough to shake the walls.
38 million. Numbers stop being abstract when they start sounding like screams.
Outside, nobody knew the details. Inside, everyone felt the ground tilt.
14 minutes left. They weren't solving a problem anymore. They were surviving a storm. And then she remembered the note, small enough to ignore, sharp enough to haunt. Legacy routing wasn't just a path, it was a trapdoor, built years ago and left unlocked. They tried to close it, fast, careful, because one wrong move could make the fire bigger. Denied. In a crisis, access controls don't care about urgency. They care about rules.
Because fear doesn't grant permission. And the system was built to resist exactly this moment.
They escalated beyond the building, to the people who could pull the plug from the outside.
They asked for a halt. The market doesn't halt for embarrassment, and it doesn't halt for panic.
9 minutes left. This isn't engineering time. This is emergency time.
Amber became red. The system wasn't strained anymore. It was failing in real time.
102 million. The number lands like a door slamming shut.
The rollback never finished, because the system never stopped moving long enough to step backward. When your hands shake, you start making new mistakes, because fear is a second attacker. They switched goals, from stopping it to containing it, because stopping was already a luxury. But you can't fence a wildfire with thread. You can only decide what you sacrifice.
6 minutes. Every plan becomes smaller than the clock.
They tried cutting outbound routes, starving Raven of oxygen, hoping the fire would suffocate. The system cued the command, like it had time, like the clock wasn't already on fire.
Then came the desperate moves, the kind you only make when logic runs out.
And Raven kept breathing, because the problem wasn't one wire. It was the whole body.
102 million. No longer a spike. Now it was a fact. At this point, even sound feels expensive, so the room buys silence.
They started writing the future in ink, because code wasn't listening anymore.
The clearing partner finally answered, an outside voice in a room full of internal panic.
A switch out Sin Helix flipped, heavy, final, like cutting power to a runaway engine.
And Raven fell silent, sudden, unnatural, like a room after the music stops.
4 to 5 minutes. That's all it took to end a company's story the way they used to tell it.
Stopping the bleeding doesn't heal the body. It just gives you time to feel the damage.
The final number arrived like a verdict, printed, undeniable, and impossible to argue with.
And the file got its first stamp. Failed. Not as an insult, as a classification.
By afternoon, the floor looked like a party after the lights come on. Quiet, messy, and ashamed.
Then came the questions. Legal, technical, human. Each one searching for a single, clean answer.
Maya washed her hands like she could rinse off time. Like guilt could dissolve in water. Risk replayed the dashboards frame by frame, because now the past was the only place control existed.
The delay was small, until it wasn't. In this world, 2 seconds is a lifetime. Leadership faced the one thing you can't hedge, consequence. And the bill always comes due.
3 tiny failures aligned, small alone, catastrophic together, like sparks meeting the same patch of dry grass.
Not malice, not sabotage, just alignment, the kind that only shows up when you stop looking. The warning existed, and still lost. Because warnings don't stop motion. Decisions do.
Assumptions fall like dominoes, and once they start, you can't outrun the sound.
But the file isn't over until we learn. Until we name the mistake without flinching. So here's what this file teaches. 5 lessons paid for with 45 minutes of panic.
First, legacy paths are not history. They're loaded weapons, left on the table for years.
Second, mirrors matter. If your test world doesn't match reality, you're rehearsing the wrong play. Third, a kill switch must kill, every time, in one place, with 0 ambiguity. Fourth, time drift is silent, and silence is deadly when decisions move at machine speed. Fifth, humans need breaks too, because stress rewires judgment faster than any patch can. After the storm, they didn't celebrate. They started the post-mortem, because pain demands an explanation.
Helix didn't lose to a villain. It lost to a story it told itself, until it sounded true. The most dangerous phrase in any war room is simple. We're fine.
Because the warning only blinked once, and everyone looked away at the exact wrong moment.
So we seal this file, not to forget it, but to keep it where it can't lie.
And we ask the only useful question. If your system went rogue, would you even know? Would you know in 2 seconds? Before 2 seconds becomes a lifetime?
This is not a hack story. It's a failure story, and failures don't need enemies to be fatal.
Next time, we open a file that starts with a single email and ends somewhere nobody expects. Until then, Stay curious. Stay careful.
And respect the clock, because it never negotiates.
File closed. All names and details are dramatized. But the pattern is real. Audit legacy paths.
Test kill switches under load. Monitor time drift.
Protect your people from burnout. Because speed without control isn't power. It's free fall. Good night. One new file every week.
Next case begins with an email that looks harmless, until it isn't.